the agenda is recognition.
I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who volunteered for Earth Day. We had a lot of parents and community volunteers to help us Earth Day, and you will see I passed around some news articles that we were featured in, Special Leadership and the Quabog Current. Those will also be on our website for people to take a look at. They're out there now. I also want to thank members of the Finance Committee. We had a meeting on Tuesday. They were very willing to work with us. I will be meeting with Sheila, the town accountant, on Friday to make sure the numbers are looking good and see if there's any last minute changes, but they did a nice job working with us, and I was very happy that the meeting went as well as it did. So I want to thank them.
Microphone right behind you.
Oh, okay. So I just want to thank people for helping us at Earth Day, and again, just thanking the FinCom for their support last Thursday. And that's all I had for recognition right now.
I was going to also thank them. It was really fun. And next year, when the call goes out for volunteers, I highly recommend coming, because I was here and it was just awesome seeing all the kids come through, and we had a lot of fun. And my particular station, we have to thank the local Boy Scouts who donated a bunch of bottles that were, instead of returning them and contributing them to the troop, they donated them to the school, so we had plenty of bottles to launch stomp rockets with, which was, it was fun, and it was in this room, so this is the only room I've ever allowed to go in this school.
I assume you're talking about for Earth Day.
Yeah, for Earth Day, yep. So
So
the Scouts donated all the bottles for that, bags and bags of them, so we had plenty of ammo.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Even though my station got voted out by the archery station as the premier one, even by my own daughter.
Okay. Any other recognition? Student Advisory Council, Student Representative update.
Okay, thank you. So for our old information, Spirit Week, the annual and traditional Spirit Week, was held April 8th to the 14th. For the first time since the pandemic, students were able to experience a lip sync competition for, and the 6th grade joined the high schoolers for the event. Students had an amazing time dressing up with their friends and bonding with their classmates before April vacation. Later this week, we will be sending out a Google form evaluation for students, for the student body's feedback on the week. For upcoming information, we have Teacher Appreciation Week. Teacher Appreciation Week will take place Monday, May 2nd to Friday, May 6th. This week, we will recognize a different part of our staff each day. More information is to come soon. The Earth Day cleanup, the North Brookfield Town Cleanup is taking place this Saturday, April 30th at the Town Common. Student Council is teaming up with the Environmental Club to clean up the town. All are welcome. Spring Conference. Spring Conference is this Thursday at Oakmont High School. The event is similar to our Fall Conference, where all Student Council members are welcome to go and learn new leadership skills. Lock-in. An event where all members of the North Brookfield Student Council go to bond, do workshops, and participate in leadership activities. This is typically an overnight event, but more details are still being worked out. And Junior Conference. Junior Conference is an event for upcoming 7th graders where Student Council members lead leadership activities. And we're still working on a date.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. On your cleanup day, do you have a time and where people are meeting if they're interested?
I can get that.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think you said the Town Common.
He said the Town Common, but I don't know if you said what.
It's supposed to start at 9. I don't know if there's a set end date.
Okay. And meet at the Town Common?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Any correspondence?
I don't have any correspondence at this time.
Is there any public participation on agenda items?
I have 2 things, if you don't mind. So I've been working with the 4th grade, and kind of they've been making a little student council, and they're adorable, and they've been working on their leadership skills. And today we were working on goal setting. So they wanted to set a goal to get a bike rack for the school, because they said they have kids who need to use a bike rack, and I mentioned it to Dresden, because I wanted to talk to Ms. Priestley about it, and I guess there's already a bike rack.
Yes.
And we were just figured maybe publicly asking for it being available to the students would be good. Would be appreciated. Not really sure who's in charge or manages that.
So, I apologize. I don't know what agenda item you're addressing.
I thought public comment was just,
No, it's public participation on agenda items.
oh, okay.
So, I'm happy, I mean, if you're working with Sarah on that, that's the right place to do that, yeah.
Okay.
Is there, the other thing, has to do with the agenda items, or?
I actually am not able to receive the agenda items because they're not posted on the website, so I'm not sure.
Well, the agenda is actually posted with the warrant for the town meeting, so.
I completely understand.
That's fine. What's your other item?
My other item was the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. I had a question about.
I think you're probably best to talk directly to the director
Yeah.
about that, actually.
Okay.
Okay?
Because, yeah, we did, but, so there's no public participation whatsoever unless there's an agenda item?
No,
that
there is
new?
public participation on agenda items. No, that's been the policy of this committee for years.
Oh, okay. Well,
Since
I
before I was
apologize
on the
then.
committee, long before I was on the committee,
Well,
so.
I've never had an issue before, so I apologize.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Thank you. Presentation on MTSS team presentations?
That's us.
That's us.
So I'm gonna invite the team to come up if they don't mind. Where is the best stand if we need to be visible? I don't know if they wanna project the slides or just us.
So that camera looks like it can move, so they might want to move that camera so it can point to the screen. And maybe you should stand over here in front of me, maybe, because this camera seems solid, like stationary.
Yeah, that one will move, I guess.
But that's up to our friends and,
Yeah.
You just have to move, I think it'll follow you.
oh, it is actually.
See?
Got a little creepy to say.
There it
There
goes.
you
Over
have
there
the
towards the screen, that'd be
advanced
great.
slides.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna stand over here. Perfect.
There you go, perfect. That's awesome. Sarah, I think you can come back over here if you, well, no, actually, because I think they only have one shot, so you
They
might
can,
want
they can present the slides and we'll just be over here.
Okay, perfect.
We'll talk, they can pick up our voices and then they can see the slides. I think that makes the most sense. So, I guess we'll go to the first slide. So the MTSS team, which consists of the building principals, but also members of our staff. So we have 3 members at each school that are on the team. I'll introduce the members who are here tonight. So Stacy Makowitz, who is our adjustment counselor at the elementary school, Karen Alex, who is our BCBA, who services students in the district, and Amelia McCool, who is a special education teacher at the elementary school. We also have Jessica Stanley, who is the adjustment counselor at the high school, Megan Sears, who is our guidance counselor at the high school, Ellen Davenport, who is our special education teacher at the high school as well. Those are the other 3 members who are on the team, but are not here to present tonight. So the multi-tiered system of supports team has started, well, I'll give you the history of the team after we watch this video, but the team has convened recently, as of January. It was a team that existed before COVID and hasn't met since. So we've been putting together this team, and we have some information that we'd like to share with you tonight. So we're gonna start with a YouTube video. Do you wanna explain what?
Sure. So
Steve?
in education, you have a lot of acronyms. NTSS is just one. So we found this video, we felt encapsulated what this program is all about. It's a brief 3-minute video, which I think you'll enjoy, and then we'll go from there. So we can just play that.
Multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, really encompasses a lot of practices that we've had in education for a long, long time. So it involves response to intervention, or RTI, our positive behavior intervention supports, universal design for learning, our social emotional curriculum. We have to involve our parents. They know their kids best. Our classroom teachers are on the front lines working with those kids every day, and it really requires collaboration, not only to brainstorm what the student needs and how to meet that need, but also to gather all of the information that's pertinent to making sure that we're getting those things done. All those pieces need to also look at the social emotional needs and behavioral challenges that a student might have, because if there are social emotional needs and behavioral needs that are not being met, they're not going to come ready to learn, and that's going to impact academics. And so in Chandler, our work is to make sure that we have the resources and curriculum, that our teachers are trained and supported, and that everyone feels empowered to diagnose and prescribe the appropriate intervention. And MTSS really is for every kid. There are 3 tiers. Tier 1 is our universal supports, our strong evidence-based curriculum and our strong instructional practices from excellent teachers, and that is something that every kid is getting in Tier 1, but some of our students need more. And so Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports come in when students need instructional minutes added that are targeted on specific skills that we've identified as being deficits for them. And so how much instruction or intervention they need varies from child to child and can really be very fluid. We have support from lots of people behind the scenes. We have all kinds of people working in the school to help brainstorm and collaborate. We have a lot of different teams set up across the district that will look at a child, and who is on those teams can vary depending on what we need to talk about for the student. It's not easy to find the instructional minutes to add for those targeted supports. We have to come together and collaborate and say, how do we schedule this? How do we make it work for kids? How do we make it work for teachers? And what it really is all about is identifying what our students need and providing them with those targeted supports to meet those needs. Sometimes we get students who come in with a lot of gaps. MTSS is not a road to special education. That's a common misconception. But we never want kids to have to fail in order to get the support that they need. We want to be preventative and proactive. When MTSS is implemented, we see an increase in student achievement, an increase in how we're maximizing our instructional minutes in the classroom, and we see decreases in referrals to special education, discipline referrals, our dropout rates go down. Everything gets better when we are targeting supports for our students. And so we have to work together and support one another, support our teachers, and make sure that everyone has the resources with people and curriculum and tools, and it takes a team of a lot of professionals to come together and make sure that we're supporting teachers so they can support kids. All students receive support through MTSS, and MTSS really is for every kid.
All right, so like I said, there's a lot of acronyms in education. Beginning of that video, you saw RTI, you saw PBIS. A few years ago, this was the PBIS committee. Prior to COVID, the state of Massachusetts held conferences all across the state, training educators on MTSS and what that looks like and how do you adopt that to your own district. So, as Sarah said, back in January, we started meeting again, and we've been meeting twice a month to organize what we need as a district and what we need at each individual school. So what we did, we started off by sending out a survey to our entire staff. And we can't do this in a vacuum. We can't do this with 10 people. We need to have input from all of our staff members. So we collected that data. We unfortunately didn't receive input from all of our staff members, but we're gonna go back and circle back again. But 22 staff members responded to our initial survey. And we use this information to pinpoint 2 things: what we do well and what we need to work on. And we broke that down into 3 areas: academic, behavioral, and SEL. And I think we're gonna start with academics first.
So, looking at the responses from that questionnaire that went out to teachers, we noticed some trends in what we were doing well in academics. The first was academic supports and resources. So that included our Title I reading specialists, our child and student study teams, our intervention block, interventions for students with learning gaps, effective support and special education staff, effective use of universal screeners for ELA, so our reading screeners, and academic support classes, such as in the high school and middle school, the academic support classes that are there, special education teachers, paras, and specialists. In terms of areas of growth, budget constraints, which really translated to more staff with more paras and more support staff. We could do more with intervention blocks and really give those small group that students need. More flexibility with schedules, extension activities for students who are working above grade level, resources and professional development for staff, math supports, Title I math. So we're strong with the reading intervention, but we need that same intervention with math. Data technology, streamlining access to data so everyone has the same information, shadowing and coaching between colleagues, peer observations, modeling, identifying specific goals, clear, consistent philosophy of academic support across the district, adopting a co-teaching model and professional development that would go along with that, and a cultural shift among the whole community regarding rigor, accountability, and responsibility.
Okay, so behaviorally, the staff that responded think that what we're doing well is that we have a common language about behavior in the buildings and the expectations as the kids come in. Restorative practice, that we're in the initial stages of that, and at the admin level, we're a little ahead. We're in tier 2 for the admin level for restorative practices. There are interventions in place, they recognize that, which is great. We have a BCBA, that's me, and a BIS, which is the Behavior Intervention Specialist. We do have PBIS in place in the elementary school, not over next door yet, right? In the elementary school. And it is really strong at the elementary school level. And I see teachers just anecdotally walking around, I see teachers using it all the time, every day, and admin and specialists and everybody. We have really good data collection systems in place. We have Swiss, we have school brains, and as the BCBA, I'm responsible for individual data collection systems for the kids, typically in tier 3, but some kids in tier 2 as well, and those are all in place. They recognize that we have a consistency on our response to behaviors, which is really great. And through the, what is this for? Child study team and
Student support team?
Student support team. We've been able to develop plans involving multiple stakeholders for student success. So those are great groups, and we meet and try to, again, be proactive about supporting students before they quote unquote fail. And then they recognize that there's a good collaboration between the teachers, the counselors, the BCBA for behaviors, and the administration, and I would definitely second that. For areas of growth for behaviors, again, more staff, more counselors, more support staff. We could get more done for those kiddos who need the additional behavioral support. Education for the whole community on what the interventions mean and what they lead to, and that would include parents as well. Understanding responses to behavior and the impact of the consequences. I think staff want to see more training around how they should be responding to behaviors in the classroom. They would like to see more extension activities and interventions for students who chronically engage in maladaptive behaviors. They would like to have a little more knowledge about implementing behavior strategies in the classroom. And they definitely would like to see us grow the restorative practices around discipline.
For SEL, the staff members recognize that we have a really great ability to build relationships with students, that the students feel like they know their teachers know their students, and their needs really well. We have a really good opportunity for staff collaboration, and also how do we support the students within the classroom and being able to have that communication with everybody. Staff feel supported by their colleagues, which is great to hear. Community programs like the Community Reading Week help foster district-wide relationships, as well as spirit weeks and pep rallies, which have been really great. Students feel safe in their classes and that the staff care about them. We have supporting counseling department. Second Step is effective in receiving positive feedback. That did get upgraded this year. I know that last year it was all kind of by paper, and it's digital, and it's been upgraded now, and so a lot of people are having a lot of positive feedback regarding Second Step. That's our social emotional curriculum that's being implemented from our K-6 students. I don't think it's being implemented currently within the high school as yet. Also, the child study team and the student support referral programs are running very effectively. Social emotional groups such as mindful moments that are happening on a regular basis, as well as lunch bunches. And wraparound services and services from BHN. So BHN is a behavioral health network from the community, and we have 2 clinicians who are recently started coming in and providing some of the outpatient services for our students who need it. Some areas of growth that were recognized for social emotional learning, we're making sure that all staff have the tools to incorporate these SEL strategies within the classroom. It's great that we can do it in the mindful moments, or we can do it in lunch bunch, but how do we get it so that we can do it within the classroom as well? Ensuring all staff feel confident with the above mentioned SEL strategies. Incorporate time for the counselors to join the classroom teachers in full class lessons. That's really hard, but it is something that's needed. Balancing our proactive and our reactive approaches for students. So PBIS is a great proactive response, and balancing that with some of the reactive responses that we work with our students. Offering support to classroom teachers to handle situations within the classroom to ensure that we're maximizing the on-task learning time. And additional staff trainings to work on SEL competencies within their classrooms.
So there's a lot of information. What we are doing well is, an impact is a result of some of the professional development that we've had this past year. So this just kind of covers what we've done with staff in terms of increasing their capacity to meet students' needs in these three categories. Some things that we focus on this year. PBIS in Tier 2, at the elementary level, we implemented SWIS, which is a behavior referral system that helps us to track student behavior, track times, locations, our responses, the consequences, and so we can start to see trends and make decisions based on that information and that data. And I know that they're utilizing school brains at the high school to track referrals for behaviors as well. We're continually working on restorative practices, so helping students kind of repair the harm and go back to their classroom community and their school community in a positive way after an incident. We're working on mindfulness, so that's at the whole staff level, but also with our BCBA and our BIS are working on mindfulness and I think some yoga with the sensory room. Kelly's been working on that with the students, and it's awesome. I think, Anna, you got to observe one of the classrooms that did an activity with her, and so that's been awesome. Unique Potential, high school advisory lesson. So do you want to talk about that for a minute, Tim, just what that is?
Sure. So we brought on Unique Potential earlier this year. They're a collaborative that works with guidance departments across the state. Katie Gray is one of the co-authors of the master curriculum for the state. So she's done a really good job of working with our adjustment counselor, our school counselor, implementing more of a college and career readiness program during advisory, which focuses on SEL. So we're really trying to teach our students the readiness for either college pathway or a career pathway, and some of the soft skills, if you will, that they need necessary to be successful, either pathway they choose. So that's been happening all year long, will be ongoing into next year.
And you also hosted the career fair?
Yes, so we brought that back. We brought in 12 different vendors from the area. We wanted to show students part-time work, possible career pathways, and we wanted to show students that many companies in this area, that they offer entry-level positions all the way to management and above, based on their college and career readiness and based on their experience, that they gained during their employment.
At the elementary school, the calming room and the sensory room are newly renovated, and there are specific protocols associated with those rooms as far as how we utilize them to help support students. The high school, we're looking at developing some spaces over there as well in the future. Looking at individual academic goals for students, so also bringing students into the conversation about how to help them set their own goals for learning. Working on developing learning objectives for lesson planning and unit planning purposes, so really using the standards and what is the learning goal for the student, for all the students, that's going to drive the instruction. And then finally the learning circles, I think that's a high school, is that a high school thing?
No, that's a student services.
Oh, that's the professional development that's offered to our special education staff. Those are held on Wednesdays after school.
Yes,
and they are
1 or 2 a month after school for any staff that are interested, and there's different topics, and it's really, staff-driven. There's one about, IEP goal development. There's one coming up about, how to support, English language learners in the classroom.
There was one about the, how to, address
Karen
specific,
did one about
needs
the-
of students who are diagnosed with ASD, and what
Correct.
that looks like in the classroom, and how to address those, specific needs. So those have been some great opportunities for staff.
So I think it's our second to last slide. But as you notice, there's 22 areas for growth, if you went through those 3 categories. And we understand that we've made progress this year, but we still have a lot of work to do. So looking at some of our PD for next year and beyond, again, continue to work on our trauma-informed practices, understand, respect, and appropriately respond. That's kind of a very brief way to explain that. When we talk about SEL, we talk about our advisory program. We've adopted the CAPS competencies, so self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And we break that down into finer pieces, but those are the 5 core standards we want our kids to kind of grasp as they go through high school. More tier 2 and tier 3 strategies that can be implemented in the classroom across all areas. So when you saw that initial video, they talked about tier 1 for all, but as students have more needs, you need to be able to meet them with some more tier 2 and tier 3 interventions within the class. Unit planning, curriculum mapping, that's an area that I think both schools will benefit from, and we need to be creative with our scheduling to make sure that we have planning time for teachers so they can use that time appropriately. Standards-based report card, I think that's more about at the elementary level, but continue to revise that and look at how our standards-based grading is working. Exploring common planning time district-wide, and really coming up with a cohesive co-teaching model. I think that's going to be valuable in really raising the bar for all of our students, including our special ed students, making sure that we have a very effective co-teaching model that all students have access to. And then, again, establishing a better understanding of what MTSS is. This, again, is a very brief presentation, and a lot of this information is still being grappled with by our staff. We need to make sure we have a common language, that all our staff members across both schools are speaking the same language, know what we're talking about when we have these conversations, and that they can then, in turn, have these conversations with students and families. So, I think that's it. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I know you were talking about how it's strong at the elementary school level. What currently does the transition look like for a kid who's receiving the services at the elementary level as they transition to the other building? Is there...
What service are you referring to?
I don't know, just because it kind of covers a lot with the social emotional learning and all that stuff. Is there, because I know sometimes as we talk about things like there's a partition between the 2 buildings besides just the parking lot. So what's the transition like as they go over to the other?
That's a fair question. Academically, I think we have a very smooth transition from 6th grade expectations to 7th grade expectations beyond. As far as social emotionally, so our guidance and our adjustment counselors work together to transition the students. We have, in the past, we've done, the 6th grade will go and visit. The students who are in our tier 2 and tier 3 will have extra visits. Our counselors will confer on what that looks like. There's transition meetings at the special education level for students as they're transitioning from our special education support staff here to the middle school, the junior high over there. Our BCBA and our BIS work district-wide, so they continue to support the students as they go across the parking lot. So there's a lot of different levels of support and transition based on the students' needs.
Both schools have a Cpac and Rise classroom. They're fully functioning right now. The elementary school is more heavy with PBIS. That is more of an elementary focused kind of initiative, if you will. There are variations that are used at a middle and high school, but they're not as widely used at the high school level, for sure. Middle school a little bit, but high school, it's really,
It's more about the expectations.
Yeah, expectations. We really focus on those soft skills and looking towards college and career pathways.
Thank you. I had a feeling, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone who was watching at home would get that info for
Thank you, absolutely.
that going over there.
Any other questions?
Not to take away from what you guys said, but I think the after school stuff for teachers to come over and ask for help, like when they have a student, I think is awesome. As a teacher, especially when I first started, I would have loved the opportunity to go meet with somebody after school and say, no, I'm struggling with this student or whatever, so I just wanna say I like it.
Great, thank you.
I think our child study team and our student support teams have really elevated in their effectiveness this year. We have great members on our teams, and our process is really smooth, and the teachers do feel supported. I know I think you're on the team, who else is on our CST? Well, you're there when you have a student there. But it's been great, yeah, it's been awesome to have the teachers feeling supported, and I'm just not sure what else I can do and what are some tools that I can utilize, so.
Any other questions from Kim?
I just want to commend the people who spoke tonight, but also 4 of the members who are not here tonight. They've done a fantastic job. This has not been Sarah and Tim dictating the meetings. This has been a collaborative process where we've received many voices, and I think that our support staff and our teachers have been a huge part in this, and they really need to be the spokespeople as we move forward with this program.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
I have 2 questions. One is, in at least 2 of the presentations where we saw that we were deficient, we talked about staff and needing more support in that area, but I don't see anything that tells me what you're looking for in those areas. Have you gotten to that level yet? Have you gone to the level saying, yeah, we need more staff and this is what we need? Or is it just at that level of, we think that if we had more staff, we would do a better job? So that's the first question.
So that came from
And I
our
don't mean to
staff.
be, that actually came out and sounding like it wasn't as sincere as it really is. If you're asking this committee to do something about it, the more detail you can provide us, the better. And so that's what I'm asking.
And I think that we're not at that point yet, because
Okay.
this is the information that was submitted to us from the staff, so they're feeling like they would like to
Okay.
see more support
Fair
staff,
enough.
more counselors, more, behavior support, more training, so, like, that's their feeling coming from, just what they've lived, and again, the last couple of years has been challenging,
Yeah.
so I feel
Fair
like,
enough. Fair enough.
that's a fair, ask from them, and, we'll explore that, what those specific needs are.
Yeah, no, just when I see that,
Yeah.
especially as we're, going into the town meeting for budget, I just kind of like to understand, what does that mean, right? So,
I have the same
Well,
question.
yeah,
right, just tell me what that means, so I understand.
You look at
so-
our departments, you look at our special ed department, for example, I mean, it's in a lot of ways, it's bare bones. We don't have a lot of the layers that other districts have. So we have people who are wearing multiple hats. And
Mhm.
sometimes when you do that, and let's be honest, things get dropped. And that's not fault to anybody, but that's how it works when you have to wear multiple hats. So I think if you have you look at team chairs and what they could add to the mix, you look at additional adjustment counselors, you look at additional school counselors, all those additional positions would allow our current team members, our current staff members to do more with their own students. So anytime you can add additional staff members, it would greatly impact or reduce some of the workloads of some of our overworked staff members.
And so then I would go back to you with the amount of funds that this town has, how would we do that? So, and I'm not asking you for an answer, please tell me. I'm not putting you on the spot, I promise you I'm not. I hear you, I absolutely hear you. I just would like to, I'm trying to figure this out because we're going, as you know, as we always do, to town meeting for a budget, and I'd like to understand what that means. So, the second question I had was exploring common planning time district-wide and a cohesive co-teaching model. And I'm asking only because I don't know, does that not happen when you have your professional development days? Is that not one of the things that you guys get to do when you have those days? So if it is, and I just want to, so if it is, are you asking for more of that, or are you saying that that doesn't happen? I just don't.
So having common planning time means it's part of the weekly cycle. It's happening weekly. It's consistent. What you're referring to is when we have PD days, yes, we sometimes have an hour, 2 hours, or even a whole day where we can meet and do horizontal or vertical alignment between the 2 schools or just within each school separately. But to make it really impactful, that needs to be consistent. And you need to have everybody who's in English, everybody's in math, everybody's in science, working together and having those conversations regularly, looking at assessment data regularly. So that's what common playing time is all about. The co-teaching model, which we have paras and we have special ed teachers who are working with our general education teachers, need to subscribe to a real model that all those people are in sync with, they know what the expectations are, and they're co-planning all the work, they're writing the assessments together, they're breaking the students up together, they're breaking up the responsibilities of the two teachers together. So that takes some PD as well, that takes some time, and I think that's what we're moving towards. I think if we have those two big initiatives in place, we're gonna see a lot of these other pieces come together.
And just to add to what Mr. McCormick is saying, I would kind of differentiate, professional development as staff learning, professional learning, so you're growing your own capacity to service students, whereas the common planning time is more focused on working with your team on addressing specific student needs and doing that day-to-day, week-to-week planning, looking at the assessments and looking at data. So it's just a slightly different function of that time.
I just think it's important as Tim had mentioned, that it's important for people who are not sitting in this room to hear those differentiations. If they see this presentation, they'd like to understand what all of that means. So that's why I think it's important to ask those questions.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
I'm not looking for an answer to this, but I'm just kind of curious, obviously not off the top of your head, but ratio-wise for like staff to special education students, are we somewhere in line with other districts? Are we extremely low for the number of special education students that we have for staff?
I think that's an enough question.
I know, and I don't expect you to know off the top of your head to compare to every district around, but I'd be interested in learning about that.
I think that we do have a high number of special education students, and so I do think that they would benefit from having more staff. And not necessarily even just special ed teachers, but maybe more paraprofessionals also to support in the classroom, or even ABA support if needed. So to answer your question, yes, it would be.
Takes a lot of extra people.
It does,
Yeah, sure.
absolutely, it does.
It takes a lot of professional development too to be an effective co-teacher.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Somebody's battery's running
We are not violating, we have enough staff to support what we have, but it's always better to, to have additional staff just for those additional supports. Right now, Anna's done a great job staffing what we have for special ed right now. And we're absolutely in compliance, so.
Yeah.
But you
No,
can-
I wasn't questioning that.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, no, I was just, I know like other schools, especially over the last 2 years, this has become huge. We have a major problem with a lot of students in schools
Yep.
with this.
Yeah.
And obviously it takes more people to deal with it, so I was just curious.
Absolutely, understood.
Are there any other questions for this group?
I just want to say one thing. I think when people hear more staffing, they immediately think money, but anytime you have more staff, as a special ed teacher myself, you can do greater things. So you mentioned the math. Anytime you make your ratio smaller and your instruction more explicit, your ability for that child to internalize that works, because the model should be I teach, we do, and then you do, and I might have that out of order. That's Dr. Archer, one of the people that I like to follow, but when you're dealing with larger numbers of children, it is harder, and co-teaching I've seen done well once in a really long career, and it does involve staff, and it involves time, and a lot of times you can say, well, we're doing co-teaching because sometimes parents and community members want to hear that, but you really want it, and it takes time. It's like a marriage, where you want to have two people that can function in one space as opposed to sitting on the couch or sitting in the back of the room, which is, sometimes you don't know what to do. You don't know how to trade off. So it's just one of those things. We all know that when we look for a preschool for our children, we always look for the smaller numbers. That really doesn't change as you go through even 12th grade. You're always going to get a better benefit when you have, just like we do. We like to have that give and take in a conversation. And I know as a parent, my child is very happy with the hands-on that is done, the use of the hallways, the reading programs, the enrichment days, Earth Day, all of that. It makes that well-rounded experience that they carry with them through the summer and can't wait to come back. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, because it benefits us as a community as a whole.
So I just want, go ahead, sorry.
My plug would be to add more paraprofessionals or ABA staff at the preschool and kindergarten level. Because if you front load it then and really work hard on those interventions for kids at the tier 2 and tier 3 levels, the little tiny ones, you're gonna need less and less staff for them as time goes on if we do it right. And if we put in systematic phasing plans, because there's a misconception out there that once you give a kid a ratio, a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 or 1-to-3, it sticks with them forever. And it really doesn't if you do it right and you put in phasing plans for those staff once those kids meet milestones. So I think the more support kids can get in preschool, and I know that what I see right now is that that's where less support is, because, oh, they're just, they're little preschoolers. But then when they come to kindergarten and first grade, we have more and more issues because they didn't get the kind of early intensive supports.
Any other questions or comments? I want to say thank you for coming in and
Yes,
giving
thank
us this presentation. I know it was a high level and not in depth as much as you would like probably, or you would like, but it does open our eyes to some things, and it's great to see all of the great things that are going on in the district as a whole. So thank you very much for your efforts. Thank you for coming back to it. I know with COVID and everything else that's been going on, this is important to us, so thank you very much for doing that. Okay, so the chair actually made a mistake and didn't go to the approval of minutes. Thank you to the vice chair for pointing that out. So can I have a motion to approve the school committee regular meeting minutes of March 28th, 2022?
I will move to approve the regular school committee meeting minutes of March 28th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you for keeping me honest. I appreciate that. School committee reports. Do there any school committee reports?
I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
I promised I'd ask, about sharing the budget, with the community. There are people that would like to see an itemized budget. From my understanding, one wasn't offered last year. And people are wondering if there's an opportunity, and if so, when that would be, to be able to see an itemized budget for the school.
Is there anybody on the committee who wants to say anything before I say anything? Okay. The itemized budget is a matter of public record. We voted on it last month, and so it's a public record. And I understand that there's reasons why people would be concerned about sharing that, but the fact of the matter is it's a public record, and we have no recourse to keep that under wraps. And it's been voted on by this board, which is the board that's responsible for that budget. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a public record and needs to be released at request.
I can put on the website. Would you like just to release it at request, or do you want me to put on the website?
You can do either that you like.
Yeah, okay, so
Madam
we can do
Superintendent?
by request, and I can certainly release it for those who are requesting it, for sure.
It's a public record. Financial reports is next item on the agenda.
Okay, you can see some deposits from the preschool, the AM/PM program, and those last gifts. So we're doing well in those particular areas. The preschool has been coming in pretty frequently. School gifts are the ones we approved last month, those are in here. And then the after-school program is got a pretty healthy balance at this point as well. The general revolving, we're in good shape. We just did a monthly swoop of our grants. So it looks like the vast majority of the grants will cover some of the funding that we're seeing here. Let's put staffing, so we just did that today, and that money usually takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks to reach us, so that will change those accounts. I have to say, Michelle and I actually looked at a couple of utility bills, because I was looking to see, are we gonna have any savings this year for the general ledger as far as expenditure with, technology and electrics and such. I thought maybe we'd have some money left, maybe with some of our electricity this year in looking at the expenditures, but it looks like they did a fantastic job of budgeting what that looks like next year. So all of the accounts look like they're going to be expended pretty close to the amount that was allocated last year. We don't see anything that is really going to be outrageous. We're going to have some legal fees because we've had some contract negotiations, so we haven't really expended some of that money. So between negotiations and some those items, we'll start seeing those, once those bills start coming in. So we are pretty confident that the budget has been doing a pretty good job, and once we got the grants expended to us, which was a huge chunk today, they want you to spend it down by the end of the year, so today we were able to get a good portion out, and that should cover a lot of what we're seeing on there. We will be meeting with the town accountant on Friday to make sure that our numbers balance with the towns, and we'll probably have that in place for the next meeting in May, so that you guys can make sure that we're balanced, and have that in place so that we're ready to close the fiscal year. If indeed we have to have any transfers, that will take place then or beginning of June.
Yeah, so I was gonna, just say that going through the budget, I noticed a lot of, but not a lot, some line items that were below what we had
Yep.
budgeted. So I need to see some transfers come through this board next month, so we can transfer those to make sure that the budget, balances according to what we had put to the town, so.
And that's
What we're discussing with Sheila on Friday.
I
That's your job,
completely
we
heard
get it.
that when she said it. I just
Sheila
wanted to
has
make-
been on me.
I just want to make record of it because
I
we
know.
went through this,
Yeah.
and, well, I went
Yeah.
through that, I'm sure the rest of the committee did too.
Yeah.
And I noticed some deficits and we need to address
Yeah,
that.
we got it.
because- Anyway, I'm done. We got it.
We have some oversight that's been doing a good job.
I'm just saying.
But thank you,
so
no, that's your
you're
job, I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Superintendent's report.
Just one, I don't have too much, because we did have a break in between there, but just to say that we did have a RAC meeting at Cpac High School in March. There's gonna be another one this Wednesday that was just posted, so if you're interested in going to the regionalization meeting, there will be one this Wednesday at Quabog. And they just really talked a little about the enrollment projections over the next 3 to 5 years. And basically, they were saying in this, I'll just talk a little bit about that, K through 6 will decrease by 22 students in both districts, grades 7 and 8 by 42 students, and then grades 9 through 12 by 49 students. So they're gonna see a decrease in enrollment in the next few years. They've seen a decrease in births over the last 10 years in the United States, not just here in New England, so they wanted to let us know that. There was some discussion on busing, so there was a little bit of communication on that about, you know, how long kids are gonna be on the bus, what are those numbers gonna look like. So the people that were in the audience did a really good job of trying to make sure that the people on the committee knew what our concerns were. They're gonna come back next week to talk about, you know, what does that look like, this week, about what that looks like as far as, you know, how much savings we're going to see in other areas. And then they also talked about some of the financial projections of the merger. They put some they put some preliminary numbers out, but they wanted to meet with both town accountants before they could finalize the numbers. And they did that very shortly after the meeting, and they'll have that information for us on April 27th, right, 27th? April 27th, that's the meeting, yeah.
2 days,
Yep. And,
I
you know.
just knew it was Wednesday, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the discussions that we had talked about was, you know, at this point, they're not looking at some of the elementary schools. So this is another discussion that they had, perhaps, you know, would closing an elementary school be something that would also be on the table? So they're also gonna bring numbers up. A couple of different scenarios for the town to take a look at. You know, what it looks like to combine the schools, maybe close the school, you know, what do the staffing numbers look like? The good news is when they talked about staffing, I should put that out there, it doesn't look as though there's gonna be a lot of staff numbers to get reductions. By the time it regionalizes, there'll be retirements and those types of things, so you're not going to see a lot of people being without a position. So that was, I thought was an interesting piece of conversation that they had. But again, we'll have more information and hopefully we'll be able to present something to the town, something of substance soon, I'm hoping. So I just want to I know I told this last month, but please mark your calendars for the graduation on June 4th at 10 o'clock. It's going to be here in the auditorium. We have a couple of retirements coming up, kindergarten and middle school, special ed. Both of those positions have been put on school spring, and I was very worried because, as you know, there's a staffing shortage for teachers across the United States, but we've got some very good applicants already, and especially at the kindergarten level. Special ed is a little bit trickier, but I do think we're gonna be able to staff both of those positions. So it looks like Anna has been doing a really good job of staffing our summer school as well. So, you know, I think we're gonna be okay. And then we continue to search for a part-time speech and language pathologist and a full-time school psychologist. Those are very important positions to have, but we are not the only school districts looking for those particular positions. If you look around, they're very few and far between. So right now we're sharing, we're having people that are doing some per diem work for us, so hopefully we can continue to search for somebody to fill those positions. Just want to keep something on your radar. We haven't heard anything. The last couple of years, school lunch has been free. I do know that there has been some talk about extending the school lunch program, but there's been nothing in stone. Right now, every student that attends public school in Massachusetts is entitled to a free lunch. So we haven't heard anything. The food service director is a little bit worried, so at some point, we're gonna have a discussion before the school year starts if it's not extended. Just wanna let you know that previously, school lunch was around $3. 49, as of March, as of last month, 49% of our students are eligible for free and reduced lunch. So, that's a good chunk of our students, but again, that's something we're gonna have to revisit moving forward. As a result of the school lunch program, a lot more students are eating lunch for free, but, if we have to go back to paying for lunches, we do worry that, students aren't gonna eat. So that's something we're hearing from the federal government. We have to wait and see what happens there. Just wanted to let you know that I attended a Worcester County Superintendent Scholar Luncheon on April 13th. This is a celebration with all Worcester County students who take their top students and celebrate their accomplishments. Our top student this year was Jenna Dupel. Jenna is a great student. I think she said she's valedictorian. She might be 2. She wasn't too sure. But she will be going to Holy Cross next year. So she's been accepted, and it was a great luncheon. We were there from about 11 to about 2 o'clock. It was great. Each student walked up on the stage. They got an award, and they said a little bit about them. And it was nice to just return to normalcy. Last year they had it at Foley Stadium outside, and it was practically raining. So this year was nice, actually. And I sit-down lunch at Holy Cross. It was very nice, and I loved chatting with Jenna. I had a nice little conversation with her in the car. So she's going to travel this summer and head to Holy Cross in the fall. So that's my report.
We have a question from the Student Advisory Council representative.
Are Quabog regionalization meetings open to students? Do you know?
Sure, they're open to everybody. They're open to everybody.
Just love these meetings, don't you?
Right?
We'll swing on by and pick you up, Joe.
I mean, I can pick you up on the way
That's
through.
it, just.
Talk to mom and dad, see if it's okay. So, administrators reports.
All right, middle senior high school, so just going back to the end of March, I know I may have mentioned this in a previous meeting, but we had our NHS, NJHS inductions. So our National Honor Society inductions, we had 4 students who were inducted to the NHS, and we have 12 students in the NJHS, including Joe to my right here. So congratulations to those 16 students. Congratulations, Joe. And that was an induction ceremony that had been tabled or not done in person for a couple of years. So we're happy to have everybody back in the auditorium, celebrate that great honor with their families. Prior to vacation, we had another retirement. Cindy O'Hara retired from the district. She was our IT director for the past 16 years. We wish Cindy the best. She moved down to South Carolina to kind of restart the second part of her life, but we miss Cindy, and we thank her for all her efforts over the last 16 years. In early April, we had Jordan Stanley. Jordan is a senior at Wachusett Regional High School. She's also the daughter of Kurt and Jess Stanley. She's a former Project 351 ambassador at Wachusett, but she was also trained in the Boston Celtics Playbook Workshop, which, if you don't know, is a program that works with middle school students around many social issues. So she tackled stereotypes with our 7th graders on this particular afternoon. We're gonna have her come back and work with our 8th grade students on a very similar topic, but we really appreciated Jordan's efforts, and the conversation that came out of this workshop was very valuable to our students and to our staff. And lastly, I know Joe mentioned this in his report, but we had our Spirit Week prior to vacation, and again, this is one of our bigger Spirit Weeks of the year, because we are able to have our lip sync contest, which may not sound like much to the adults here, but for our grades 7 through 12, it is a great afternoon. We invited our 6th graders up, and they got to see a little bit of the school culture, and I was very impressed. I wouldn't say surprised, I was very impressed. I was very happy for our students who took part in that whole experience. And thank you to Stuco again for all your amazing efforts in organizing this Spirit Week. Thank you.
Did you want to mention Miask? Is volunteers?
Oh, yes, thank you. And so tomorrow, Tuesday the 26th, and Wednesday the 27th, we have our NEAS Collaborative Conference visit. So we have our visiting team coming in to spend about a day and a half in the schools. We spent a good chunk of our beginning of our school year as a staff writing our self-reflection report. They will use that report, and they will then go into classrooms, talk to teachers, talk to students about what they feel, what we feel, what they feel we're doing well, and what are areas for growth for us as a school. So we hope to learn a lot from this experience. It's been time consuming. It's been a lot of work for our staff. I want to commend our staff on their amazing efforts over the past 4 months in getting this report done. But I think after Wednesday, we'll have a great kind of roadmap to where we can go for the next 4 years before our decennial visit. When they come back, we get our full accreditation. So it's been a long process, but we are excited for their visit the next couple days.
Great. We have our elementary school administrators report.
Thank you. So on March 21st, the Safer School program, which is part of the Mass Department of Transportation, sent out a bike safety presenter who not only presented about bike safety, but also helped the students practice all of those skills. We have, I think, 6 or 7 bikes as part of our PE department, and they were able to ride through the gym and practice some of the things that the presenter taught them about checking your bike to make sure it's safe, checking your helmet to make sure it's on correctly, how to, negotiate turns and signal those turns, and it was really great. We offered that presentation to our 3rd and 4th graders, so that was a nice event. We have completed our MCAS testing for ELA. We will be moving into math and science for our 5th graders in May. We joined the high school for the Spirit Week, so the elementary school students were able to also participate in the same Spirit Days. And like Mr. McCormick said, we were able to send the 6th graders over to watch the lip sync, which was part of that, transitioning them over to the middle school, high school. We celebrated Earth Day on April 14th, which Mr. Canada talked about earlier tonight. It was an awesome day. I think probably one of our best. Last year we were able to still have sort of an Earth Day with staff, in the building, but this was our first time since the pandemic that we were able to have community volunteers come in. We had the stomp rockets, which I noticed there was one over there on the table still. We had kite making, planting.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's check. A read aloud and a craft. We had our recycled relay races. Both Quabbin folks were here with the wildlife artifact exploration. Mr. Reardon ran an archery station over on the tennis courts. We had an artist who came in who presented birds in flight and helped the students through some artwork around that. We had the East Quabbin Land Trust came in with a pollinator game for the kids. And then Mr. Marr, who subs for us, he was a former para here, he also works at Valley View. He ran a station around Hassan's journey from Ukraine, and the students walked the track behind the high school to simulate that same type of journey, carrying a backpack, and it was there was a fundraising component to it. So it was just a wonderful day. Thank you so much to all the volunteers who helped on that day, and a special shout out to Mrs. Pratt who organized it. And lastly, kindergarten registration is open, so if there's any kindergarten families out there who will be registering in the fall, if you haven't heard from Ms. Dresden yet, let us know and we'll get you your enrollment packet.
Great. Student services report.
Okay, thank you. So as Ms. Rickson mentioned, I've been really focusing on extended school year and trying to get staffing in place and ready for that. So there are postings up on School Spring, and I have started interviews, and I have secured a few staff already. So extended school year this year is July 5th through August 4th, and it will be from 8 to 11:30 at the high school and 8:30 to noon at the elementary school. I am continuing to search, as Ms. Rickson mentioned, for a school psychologist. We also are in the process of starting interviews for a special education teacher position at the middle school level. And we are in need of a speech-language pathology assistant. I will say that Quabog Regional School District was very nice, and I appreciate that they were able to work with us to provide us for 3 hours of service from their SLPA, so that is much appreciated. Some other things going on is we do have our preschool screenings that are happening this Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, the 27th and the 28th, from 9 to 1, and that's at the elementary school. And I do just want to say that we did have another parent workshop that happened prior to school vacation week on April 6th, and that was on the effects of social media and basically the digital age and how it impacts our students. And I do want to, again, thank the DA's office for allowing Eileen Nealon to come out and present to our parents. And hopefully we will be able to squeeze in one more parent workshop before the end of the school year. So more to come on that. And lastly, we do have our monthly Cpac meeting that is happening tomorrow evening, April 26th, from 6 to 7 p.m. And that's going to be at the library at the elementary school.
Are there any questions on the reports? Okay. Anything under old business?
Nope, nothing in the
Anything under new business?
Yes, I just sent you a packet on memo from School Choice. We are required by May 1st each year to conduct 2 votes on School Choice. One is to vote whether to participate in School Choice, and the other one is to recommend how many openings we have at each grade level. So I've attached that, the number of students that we have, if we're indeed going to move forward with School Choice. So we have to have 2 votes.
Let me take them one at a time.
Yep.
Please. So can I get a motion to participate in School Choice for the coming school year?
I'll make a motion to participate in school choice for the coming school year.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on motion? All those in favor?
So I have a question. So if we're voting for this, are we saying that we're going to do it, or are we voting that we're going to discuss it?
No, the question was, there was a motion made to vote that we will participate in school choice, and then there was a second, and then the question from the chair was, are there any questions? So that's the point to discuss. So if you have a...
So my question is,
Yeah.
am I voting yes for school choice? Because I had a
Yes.
question about these numbers. If
That's
The
the
numbers
next
come
one.
second.
Okay, so then yes. Okay.
That's okay. I just want to make sure we're out of clarity when we
Yep.
make the vote. Okay, so we have a motion and a second
Yep.
to participate in school choice for the coming school year. All those in favor? Okay. So now I need a motion to participate in school choice with the numbers provided by the superintendent for school choice. So can I have a motion to that effect? Because we can't discuss it until we get one, so.
So I move to approve the school choice numbers given by the superintendent.
And can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I have my question. So my question with looking at this, so school choice always brings in funds, so
Right.
that is not an issue.
Mhm.
The question is the amount of students that are now coming in. So if you're saying that there's going to be, if I'm correct, 50 students in each grade,
Mhm.
based on the staffing we have,
It's okay.
Let her finish the question.
so because I don't know the numbers, so one of the things I've always liked is we've had smaller class sizes. Once you go bigger, and again, I'm looking at Mrs. Priestley because you're both going to know. So the 50 because that's 25 and 25. So
let me, if I may,
yeah,
address the question. So the question is, if we have 2 classrooms and we're saying the maximum amount of students we can have in that grade is 50, and so that would mean 25 in one particular grade, one particular class, and 25 in another particular class. And I'm guessing what your question is that a sufficient, or is that an excessive number from the administration standpoint versus what we're seeing here?
Yes.
Did I
yes, and then what
encapsulate that
happens if
question?
all of a sudden we the family moves in and now you have more because you can never say no. And having been a teacher, once you hit a certain number, it's like having a family, you know, you with 3 kids is okay, you hit 7 and, you know, it's particularly in an elementary. So I had just a question how that looks from you as the.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we go by our current enrollment. So if you have 47 kids in the first grade and they're gonna be the rising second graders, then you'll open 3 school choice seats. If a family, in the second grade for next year. If a family moves into town that has second graders, yes, we have to, you know, allow them to enroll at our school. But we tend to have a balance of students who move in and move out. It can get a little bit wonky sometimes if there's just an off year where we have an influx of students. That has happened in the past. It's rare, but generally it keeps the class sizes at around 25, which is the.
But you could have more, so if you needed to have 53 for 1 grade, that's okay, everybody stays, but, okay.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just
I
figured I'd like to
remember
clarify.
when I was the 6th grade teacher here, we had 28 in each
Oh.
class, so it's a big, that was a big
Okay.
group, that was a big class.
Okay, so you know
And, it's not
personally.
ideal, but it's
No, but it's
doable.
doable, okay.
But sometimes those flukes happen, but not generally.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, is the predicted class size for next year, does that include children who are currently school choiced in? So,
Yes.
so this is opening up additional seats
Yes.
Beyond what we
that, okay.
currently have enrolled. And so students who school choice in may decide they wanna go back to their home district, they will continue with us, and we don't ever really know. So we just go by the numbers that are currently enrolled, including all students.
Any other questions? All those in favor of approving the numbers as presented by the superintendent? Aye. Opposed? Okay. There you go. So, next item is executive session, if we have any. Do we have any executive session tonight? No? So I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. 2 seconds.
2 seconds or what? All those in favor? There you go. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.